Hey there, Craig. 29 years been doing this. And boy, if there's ever been a time in our industry right now that there's a whole bunch of noise about it's not a good time to buy, don't even consider buying. Interest rates are too high. Just all the negative news about just becoming a homeowner. Absolutely a wrong bit of information as far as those that are able to buy right now. It is a great time. And I can tell you statistically, there are a lot of you that are able to buy, but I think simply because of the great noise that we've had over the course of almost 4 years, it's been absolutely crazy. And I definitely know that there's been moments, right, where we've had interest rates seven, 7.25, almost touching 7.5 at times. So absolutely much higher rates. We come out of the pandemic where rates were 2.5, 3% for a minute there, and just gave a absolute false narrative of what was going on. So we want to kind of right ship this for those that one are curious about buying. And I think the greatest thing is to solve curiosity is to be absolutely transparent. So that's what this is about. We're going to do many more of these so that depending on schedules and timing and all that stuff, you might be able to catch one of these and maybe it'll just give you an inclination to take a step forward. Because the worst thing to find out is not that you can't do it, it's that you could have done it and you waited to do it. And I've had that happen more times than not over the past 3 years. It's one of those moments where we've all experienced it. Maybe, obviously way back when I'm a student and being taught, and all of a sudden the light goes on, right? That statement of the light goes on. So I am always humbled to have that happen. So I want to try to bring those opportunities here into this and allow you to be able to see for yourself what the opportunity looks like. So we're going to take a look at all kinds of homes. This particular one is in Van Alstyne, Texas. So that I am a licensed loan officer, producing branch manager, currently licensed in 3 states myself, which is Texas, Oklahoma, and California. So we service those directly. And then if any of you are in other states, totally fine. We can put you into our corporate opportunity and I can still be a part of the transaction, but we can still get that done. So simple there. So don't think for a minute that we can't answer questions about home loans. So let's dive in here and give you what I like to call a look underneath the hood to be able to see what financing looks like. Because again, my thinking is like all human beings, when you walk into a house, it grabs your attention, which it should. And then from there, your next thought should be, I wonder if I can afford it. Because obviously in our industry today, there's so much jargon, right? Price drop. Well, obviously it means that they're dropping the price, but what does that mean to affordability, right? I just don't always understand that. It's old school stuff. And to be quite honest, I think it's one of the reasons why people are hesitant because it's, again, some old school thinking there. The funny one is when they're called price improvements when they've dropped the price. You gotta love that type of stuff for sure. And then seller concessions, right? Obviously, something the seller is going to give us some money to do something. It's going to lower the cost. Like, what's it lower the cost by? So we're going to answer those types of things. You also may have heard of terms like buy down, temporary buy down, permanent buy down, 2-1 buy down, all of those things, right? I've always said to clients, obviously, the world that you're in, the job you're in, probably like the back of your hand. But when we start talking about home loans and financing and buying and selling real estate, because most people do it maybe 3 or 4 times in a lifetime, and maybe they refinance a loan another 2 or 3 times. So it's something that is not very common for any of us to do over and over again. So every time we jump into the pool, it's almost like we have to learn how to swim again. So we're going to do a whole bunch of these types of videos so that people can, again, get more comfortable and feel like, you know what, let's explore this, because that's all this is, you know, getting to a place where you're trying to gather information and obviously trying to do it from someone that you can trust, because that's the other part of the industry that has been a little challenging because of the fact business has been very little. Obviously, we have sold a lot less homes over the last 2 years than we have in, boy, I'd say probably 10 to 15 years. I mean, it's been that crazy. So when, you know, there's lack of sales, sometimes, you know, not good things are happening. So I want to be transparent. I've always done that. Obviously, being blessed to do this for 29 years, that is definitely something that has been at the core. So let's dive into this particular property. The great thing is, in the state of Texas and Oklahoma, you can still find a first-time home buyer, whether you're a first-time home buyer or not. But this particular one has got first-time home buyer written all over it because it's priced at $259,900. Back when I'm in California, a starter home, we come from Huntington Beach. Those homes are going for $900,000 starter home. So any of my Southern California folks that are thinking to head this way or just out of the state period, there's some great opportunity for sure to become a homeowner. So with that said, this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, just about 1,500, just over 1,500 square feet. Absolutely great looking home. But we can put this up if you'd like to see it, or others. I've got obviously some great realtor partners, and we can get you these properties for your review. And then again, put some numbers together specifically for you. So with that, let's dive into, I'm going to show you our loan system that we use, how we put loans together. And again, this is a part of being just full disclosure. You will see probably the borrower's name up there. I named him Willy Wonka for whatever that's worth. Had to put a name into the system there. So what we look at out of the gate, and again, after we've had an opportunity to have a conversation, and we call this our first look. So we're going to jump into this, and we're going to take our first look at, again, some ideas, and that's all they are. Nothing etched in stone, but just something to begin the conversation, right? So in this case, we've got it listed at the 259. So that's why the first one there, the blue one, is at 259 list price. And you can see it takes into consideration, and it's in all these scenarios, we show you all the what we call third-party fees, because they're just not the lender fees. And you can see the lender fees are up there in Part A, where it says origination. And then everything below that becomes third-party fees. So we're taking everything into consideration, and we're going to account for it. We're not going to all of a sudden, you know, scare somebody. Oh, by the way, you owe us another $3,000. It doesn't happen in our world. Never does. Never will. So this is really good. And then in the environment that we're in, it doesn't, you know, ever surprise me, because a very, you know, good thought pattern here would be, I wonder if we drop the price by $10,000 or $15,000, whatever that is. So we want to show the difference between the list price and then dropping it by $10,000. What does that do to the monthly payment? I mean, does it change it that much? So you can see here, we've got a monthly payment of $2,263 on the list price. And then we go to $2,176. So not very big jump, right? Nothing. And $10,000 is a lot of money. I don't care where you're at, you know, in the money world, but 10 grand is a bunch of money. And then again, natural thought is that $10,000 is a lot. Why doesn't it change the payment more? And the answer is simple. It's amortized over 30 years. So $10,000 spread out over 30 years, it's not going to have that big of an impact. So option 3 is where we're going to hold price as it says. And then we're going to take that $10,000, we call it flex cash, and we're going to use that to do what is known as a 2-1 buy down. So I'm getting a little techie there with the jargon, but really simple. You can see in all three scenarios, I'm using an interest rate there of 6.125. So on the 2-1 buy down, what happens is we go 2% below that first year. So the 6.125 year one becomes 4.125. And then the second year, it goes up a point. So it's 5.125. And then finally in the third year, it gets to that 6.125. But the difference, and as I say, where the rubber meets the road, we go from the list price payment of the 2263, we move all the way down to 1941. So good size difference. Now there's another factor here that unfortunately our program doesn't take into effect, but when we come down here and we look at cost, there's that temporary buy down. You can see, oh goodness, it's going to go back. So on the temporary buy down, it goes back, and I'm going to bring it up here in a minute once it comes up. But in the temporary buy down, we don't use all the $10,000 for the temporary buy down. There's about $4,000 left. So as you would look back into the video, you'll see the closing costs were just a little above $14,000. We could take the $4,000 and apply that to that $14,000. So you're actually going to come in with $10K at closing. So that's a really good thing there to be able to do that and, offset closing costs. Yeah, see, we're right above just the 14,000. So we've got about $4,000 there that we can apply towards that of that $10,000 and lower the closing cost there. Let's do this. Let's come in here and we can actually show you, we can make some adjustments right here and you can see it live and how this, so we're going to go back to that 2-1 buy down. And you'll see here in a minute how this is impacted, which is really, really good. So here's that temporary buy down that I was talking about. It actually comes in at 58.41, and we're using $10,000 in that flex cash. So we would take the difference between the 5,800 and the 10,000, which is just a little more than $4,000, and apply that to the 1479. And then what we can also show you here in loan details is come down here. Here's all the disclosures. We've got obviously the interest rate that we talked about, the 6.125. Here's the APR at 6.733. And we're actually using, so that this is called a USDA loan. And here in Texas and Oklahoma, they can happen much more often than they did in California. We have a lot more rural areas, but even our rural areas, they've got a few people in them, but nothing like, say, an Orange County or a Huntington Beach, where we came from, of course. But what's great about the USDA program specifically is it is a zero down payment. So we've got zero down to be able to work with there. So all we do is we're going to cover closing costs in that side. Here's the monthly payment. So this is months 1 through 12. That payment there, that 1941. And then in months 13 through 24 is 2,097. So again, full disclosure, you get to see all of this, how it's made specifically for you. And then we can answer questions, again, to make sure that you are feeling confident with every step of the way here. So really, really helpful. We can go through this again, step by step, and make sure. And then here in this particular scenario, you can see all the estimated closing costs. They're going to be pretty close. In fact, I'd say 99% of the time, we have figured higher. So that's a good thing, because that means it's going to come down. Let me do this, because we'll apply that. So I know we've got $10,000 we're using for that flex cash. and we've got the 5841. So we're going to, and we'll get an exact number. So we got 4159. So I can come down here and I can find seller credit for closing costs. We can drop this in right here, 4159. We'll submit that. We'll rerun it. Let the page reload. And look at the closing costs, what happens here. How much we need to close. Because I think I said it was somewhere around $10,000. But again, really simple way to get into a home and to do some simple math. If you were wondering what kind of income it would take to get in, I can do that for you in a minute as well and give you an idea of how that can happen. But you want to keep in mind, yeah, $10,590 to close. So you need just a little over $10,000, and your monthly payment, again, what you qualify based on is the 2263. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to take 2263 and we're going to do times 2, which means 50%. So we've got 45,000. Now with the USDA, they like to see you at about 43% of your income. So probably close to, I'd say, $4,000 for that. So at $4,000, we're going to be somewhere around, call it, and if you've got some credit card debt, maybe a car payment, stuff like that. I mean, for $60,000 a year, it'd be close to be able to qualify. And, if there's 2 people involved in the transaction, obviously that's 2 incomes coming together. So there's just all kinds of ways to be able to put this together so that you end up becoming a homeowner and buy a beautiful, just adorable little home. And as I've often said, it's about, put me in the game, coach, get me going, let me play, because there's one thing that has always been true. We always want to sleep under a roof. And those that own roofs, and, if you ever get to a chance where you can own, another piece of property or, several rental properties, you own more roofs, there is more generational wealth there. And this has always been such a great way to do that. I can tell you the appreciation factor, meaning that, the price of the home going up year in and year out. We always use 4%. That's been very, very historic. So, anything that I'm saying here, please feel free, give me a fact check, not a problem. And we can make sure that we want to, again, be absolutely transparent as we go through this and give you every opportunity to become a homeowner. That's the key. So with that being said, I want to give you this as we kind of wrap this up. I call it the unmortgage movement, and it's trying to get, again, the confusion and the jargon out of the equation based on all the fear-based headlines that are out there and all the gimmick type stuff. Because I believe, and I know, again, from running data, that there are so many people that can afford a home that just for all kinds of reasons that just aren't asking. So do yourself a favor and ask the question. And then I believe absolutely in clarity over confusion, confidence over fear, and creating an affordability strategy. I just shared with you one, and again, it's a general strategy. But when we get together and have a deeper conversation, we can come up specifically with a strategy for you. And then obviously with home ownership being launched, you create the security, freedom, and begin to create generational wealth. So we expose obviously the myths, show the numbers, as I just shared, invite and listen, of course, and deliver a Ritz-Carlton experience throughout. So I would put out an invitation to you to, book what we call my dreams and goals call. There's my phone number right there, 469 400 8525. Again, 469 400 8525. Would love to have an opportunity, because I firmly have seen in the time that I've blessed to be in this business, that 15-minute phone call definitely can impact your next 20 years for sure. So thank you so much. We will start to do these on a regular basis. Just pick and choose homes throughout the 3 states that I'm licensed in, so that you can start to see the many opportunities that are available and how homeownership can be a part of your 2026 goals. So thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.